My marriage was like a comfortable pair of old shoes, worn in, reliable, but not exactly exciting anymore. 6 years with Jennifer. 6 years of what I thought was a solid foundation, built on trust and mutual respect. I'm Michael Preston, 35, and I've always believed in doing things the right way. Work hard, treat people fairly, honor your commitments, especially the commitment I made to Jennifer when I slipped that ring on her finger. Our 3-bedroom house sits in one of those quiet suburban neighborhoods where people wave at each other from their driveways and complain about property taxes at barbecues. Jennifer quit her graphic design job 3 years ago to focus on the home, as she put it. I never questioned it. I made enough at the tech company where I'm a marketing director. She seemed happy. We seemed happy. Not passionate, maybe. Not like those early days when we couldn't keep our hands off each other. But stable. Safe. That counts for something, doesn't it? Thursday afternoon changed everything, though I didn't know it at the time. My client meeting got canceled, some emergency on their end. Instead of my usual 6:15 p.m. arrival, I found myself turning my key in the lock at 3:47 p.m. The house smelled like vanilla candles and coffee, normal afternoon scents. But when I walked into the kitchen, something flickered across Jennifer's face. Surprise, definitely. But was it relief too? The expression vanished so quickly I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. "You're home early," she exclaimed, her smile too bright, like stage lights that hurt your eyes. "Meeting got canceled," I explained. "What are you up to?" "Just organizing some things," she replied, gesturing vaguely around the kitchen. I noticed her laptop closing with a soft click. The screen went dark before I could see what she'd been looking at. I headed upstairs to change out of my work clothes, loosening my tie as I climbed the familiar steps. Something about the afternoon felt off-kilter, like a picture hanging slightly crooked. As I passed the guest bedroom, I glanced inside out of habit. We rarely used that room, maybe 8 months since Jennifer's cousin visited last winter. That's when I saw them. Crisp white sheets, hospital corner neat, pulled tight across the bed. This morning, when I'd left for work, they were the faded blue sheets we'd had for years. I stood in the doorway, confused. Why would she change sheets in a room no one uses? I found Jennifer in the laundry room, her back to me as she loaded the washing machine. The old blue sheets were going in, along with towels and other random items. The washer's door slammed shut with more force than necessary. "Why are you changing the guest room sheets?" I asked, keeping my tone casual, curious rather than accusatory. Jennifer jumped like I'd shouted, her hand pressed to her chest. "Oh, I just thought they needed washing," she stammered. "You know, spring cleaning." I nodded slowly. "Makes sense," I replied. But it was October, and we hadn't had overnight guests in 8 months. And who does spring cleaning in the middle of a Thursday afternoon? That night, lying in bed beside my wife, I stared at the ceiling while Jennifer's breathing settled into the even rhythm of sleep. My mind wouldn't stop turning over the afternoon's strange moments. Her startled expression when I came home early, the laptop snapping shut, those crisp white sheets replacing perfectly clean blue ones. There's probably a reasonable explanation, I told myself. Maybe she spilled something on the old sheets. Maybe she's planning to have guests soon and forgot to mention it. Maybe I'm manufacturing problems where none exist, the way people do when they're bored or looking for drama in a peaceful life. But the image of those white sheets kept replaying in my mind. Not just the sheets themselves, but the way they'd been made. Perfect hospital corners, tucked with military precision. Jennifer had never been that neat. She left towels on the bathroom floor and dishes in the sink. So why would she suddenly become Martha Stewart about guest room linens? Maybe I'm paranoid. Maybe I'm destroying my own peace of mind over laundry. But as I closed my eyes that night, one thought wouldn't leave me. Why would someone change sheets in the middle of a Thursday afternoon? The weekend crawled by like a wounded animal. I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in my house, in my marriage, in my understanding of reality itself. Saturday morning, Jennifer announced over breakfast that she and her sister were planning a full-day outlet shopping trip. "An hour's drive each way," she explained, buttering her toast with deliberate precision. "Probably won't be home until evening." I encouraged her enthusiastically, maybe too enthusiastically. "Have fun, take your time, maybe get dinner out there," I suggested. I watched her leave at 9 a.m., her car disappearing down our quiet street, and immediately opened my laptop. Within an hour, I'd ordered 3 small security cameras from an online retailer with same-day delivery. The rational part of my brain screamed that I was being ridiculous, paranoid, crossing lines that stable marriages don't cross. But a louder voice insisted I needed to know what was happening in my own home when I wasn't there. If nothing's wrong, I told myself, I'll uninstall them and Jennifer will never know. If something is wrong, I need to know. The cameras arrived by 2 p.m. I worked quickly, methodically, drawing on every home improvement project I'd ever completed. One camera covering the front door and driveway, disguised as a motion sensor light. One positioned in the living room corner, hidden behind the decorative plant Jennifer's mother had given us for our anniversary. One in the upstairs hallway, angled perfectly to capture anyone entering or exiting the guest bedroom. I set them to record continuously, footage uploading to encrypted cloud storage only I could access. By the time Jennifer returned at 7 p.m., laden with shopping bags and chattering about sales and discounts, the cameras were invisible, embedded seamlessly into our home like digital parasites. I helped carry her purchases inside, smiling and nodding as she described her day. "The outlet stores were packed, but I found some amazing deals," she chatted excitedly. She showed me a dress, a pair of shoes, a jacket she'd never wear. "My sister spent twice as much as I did," she added with a laugh. I didn't check the cameras that night. Not yet. I needed a baseline, a full week of footage to establish patterns, to see if my suspicions had any foundation or if I was manufacturing problems in a healthy marriage. The week that followed felt like living in a simulation where everything looked normal, but the underlying code was corrupted. I went to work each morning, sat through meetings, managed my team, responded to emails, all while knowing that somewhere in the cloud, footage of my empty house was accumulating like evidence of something I wasn't sure I wanted to discover. But I noticed things. Small things that I might have overlooked before, when I trusted implicitly. Jennifer seemed different, more energetic, almost glowing. She was dressing nicer even though she was supposedly home alone all day. Makeup applied carefully, hair styled rather than thrown back in a ponytail, outfits that looked deliberately chosen rather than grabbed from the closet. She was constantly on her phone, smiling at messages in a way that made my stomach clench. When I entered a room, the phone would disappear into her pocket or flip face down on the counter like a guilty reflex. When I asked who she was texting, she waved it off with practiced casualness. "Just my sister," she'd say. "Just the neighborhood group chat," she'd claim another time. "Just some online shopping notifications," was her go-to response. Always just something innocent and boring. Thursday evening, she was unusually affectionate, cooking my favorite meal without being asked, asking about my day with what seemed like genuine interest, suggesting we watch a movie together. I played along, but something felt performative about it all, like she was checking boxes on a wife's duties checklist rather than expressing spontaneous affection. Friday night, Jennifer claimed a headache and went to bed at 9 p.m. I waited until her breathing deepened into sleep's rhythm, then took my laptop to the bathroom, locked the door, and sat on the cold tile floor with my back against the door. I opened the camera footage from the past week. Monday through Wednesday, nothing unusual. Jennifer did laundry, watched TV, scrolled her phone, made lunch. Normal domestic life. I started to feel foolish, like a paranoid husband destroying his marriage with baseless suspicions. Then I loaded Thursday's footage. 10:47 a.m. A car I didn't recognize pulled into my driveway. A man got out, tall, athletic, mid-30s, wearing jeans and a fitted shirt. He walked to my front door with the confidence of someone who belonged there, someone who was expected. Jennifer opened the door before he could knock. My finger hovered over the play button. Part of me wanted to close the laptop, delete everything, pretend I never saw that car pull into my driveway. But I didn't. I clicked play, and my marriage ended in the next 60 minutes of silent footage. I forced myself to watch every second, sitting on that bathroom floor with my back pressed against the locked door, my wife sleeping peacefully 10 feet away in our bed. The laptop screen glowed in the darkness, showing me the destruction of everything I thought I knew about my life. Jennifer appeared on camera wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. Fitted, elegant, the kind she used to wear when we were dating and she wanted to make an impression. She embraced the stranger in our doorway, and even through the camera's wide angle, I could see it wasn't a friendly hug. It lasted too long, too familiar, too intimate. They moved into the living room, and Jennifer poured wine, the expensive bottle I'd been saving for our anniversary next month. They sat close on the couch, her hand on his knee, his arm around her shoulders. They were laughing, comfortable, like this was routine. Like this was where they belonged. At 11:23 a.m., they kissed. Deep, passionate, the kind of kiss I hadn't received from my wife in months, maybe years. I watched my marriage die in that moment. Not the legal document or the shared bank accounts or the mortgage payments, but the real marriage, the one built on trust and fidelity and the belief that we were committed to each other above all others. They started undressing each other right there in my living room, his hands sliding under her dress, her fingers working his belt with practiced efficiency. Then they moved toward the hallway, still kissing, leaving a trail of clothes on my hardwood floors, like breadcrumbs marking the path to my destruction. I fast-forwarded through the next section. I didn't need to see details. The guest bedroom doorway was partially visible in the hallway camera. I could see movement, shadows, the evidence of intimate betrayal happening on those white sheets Jennifer had changed so carefully. The sheets she'd lied about. The sheets that were now evidence of premeditation. At 12:15 p.m., the man emerged, fully dressed, hair slightly disheveled. Jennifer walked him to the door wearing only my robe, the blue terry cloth robe I'd gotten for Christmas 2 years ago. They kissed goodbye at the door, tender and lingering, like lovers who would see each other again soon. The moment his car disappeared down the street, Jennifer sprang into action with devastating efficiency. She stripped the guest bed like a professional housekeeper, loaded the washing machine, showered, changed back into the casual clothes she'd been wearing that morning when my cameras started recording. By 1 p.m., every trace of the affair was erased. Our home restored to its facade of marital normalcy. My marriage had ended at some point between 10:47 and 12:15 on a Thursday morning, but I was only finding out about it now, sitting on cold bathroom tile at 11 p.m. on a Friday night. I watched the footage 3 more times, forcing myself to absorb every detail like a detective studying crime scene evidence. The way Jennifer touched this stranger, the way she smiled at him, genuine, radiant, nothing like the polite smiles she gave me anymore. The practiced efficiency with which she cleaned up afterward. This wasn't spontaneous. This wasn't a mistake made in a moment of weakness. This was routine, planned, executed with the precision of someone who'd done it before and expected to do it again. I opened a new folder on my laptop, labeled it Evidence, and saved every relevant clip. I took screenshots, timestamps, the stranger's car and license plate clearly visible in the driveway camera. Jennifer opening the door with that radiant smile. I had everything I'd need for a divorce attorney. Proof of adultery, documented dates and times, visual evidence that would make any court settlement favor me completely. But as I sat there in the dark bathroom, listening to my wife's peaceful breathing through the door, A new thought took root and began to grow like a poisonous plant. I could file for divorce Monday morning, take her by surprise, clean, quick, devastating, show her the evidence, let her lawyer see the footage, watch her world collapse as efficiently as she'd erased the evidence of her betrayal. But that would mean the stranger would never know he'd been caught. He'd just hear eventually that Jennifer was divorced and move on with his life, consequence-free. He'd find another married woman to seduce, drink another husband's wine, sleep in another man's guest bedroom. Number. I closed the laptop slowly, my jaw clenched tight. Divorce was the end result, but it wasn't enough. Not for 6 years of lies, not for being made a fool in my own home. This man needed to face consequences, too. He needed to know that actions have prices, that other people's marriages aren't toys to be played with and discarded. By the time dawn light crept through the bathroom window, I had the framework of a plan. Not just evidence, not just divorce. Something that would bring the affair partner back to my doorstep, vulnerable, exposed, and caught in the act. Monday morning, I smiled at Jennifer over breakfast and said the words that would set everything in motion. I have to go to Seattle for a business conference. Week-long trip. I leave Wednesday. Jennifer's face did something fascinating when I announced the Seattle trip. For just a fraction of a second, before she could control her expression, relief flashed across her features like sunlight breaking through clouds. Then she masked it with concern, tilting her head with what she probably thought was loving worry. "A whole week? That's so sudden," she responded, tilting her head with what she probably thought was loving worry. I shrugged, playing my role perfectly. "Big client meeting. Johnson wants me to handle the presentation personally." "Can't be helped," I explained. "Sorry for the short notice." "Of course," Jennifer replied, and I saw her hand move toward her phone on the table, fingers twitching with barely contained excitement. "I understand completely. These things happen in business." A pause, then the obligatory spouse response, "I'll miss you." I reached across to squeeze her free hand. "Miss you too," I answered. I meant the opposite. Monday and Tuesday dragged by in careful preparation. I confirmed details with the divorce attorney I'd quietly retained over the weekend. Papers ready to file, everything documented and legally airtight. I told my boss I needed to work remotely for a few days, citing a vague family emergency that might require my immediate attention. He didn't ask for details. Tuesday night, I packed a suitcase while Jennifer watched from the bedroom doorway, asking if I needed help with an innocence that would have been touching if I didn't know what she was planning. "I'm good," I replied, folding shirts with deliberate care. "You should enjoy having the place to yourself for a week. Relax, binge-watch those shows I pretend not to like." Jennifer laughed, and for a moment it almost sounded genuine. "Maybe I will," she said. "Maybe I'll finally catch up on all that reality TV you hate." Wednesday morning arrived gray and drizzling. I loaded my suitcase into the car, kissed Jennifer goodbye on the front porch. Her lips were cold, or maybe that was just my imagination, and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I watched her standing in the doorway, and even from that distance I could see her pulling out her phone before I'd reached the end of our block. I didn't go to the airport. Instead, I drove 15 minutes across town and checked into a Marriott, paying cash and using a fake name I'd practiced writing. The room was generic business hotel, beige carpet, bland artwork, a desk that looked like every other hotel desk in America. I set up my laptop and connected to the camera feeds. There was my house on the screen, empty except for Jennifer, who was pacing the living room with her phone pressed to her ear. Even through the silent video feed, I could see her animation, her excitement. She was planning something, and I knew exactly what it was. I watched her that evening. She ordered takeout from that Thai place we both liked, ate dinner alone while watching Netflix, went to bed at a reasonable hour. Normal evening for a woman whose husband was traveling. I ordered room service, a club sandwich that tasted like cardboard, and ate mechanical bites while never taking my eyes off the screen. Thursday morning, I was awake at 5 a.m., coffee cooling beside me as I monitored the feeds with the intensity of a surgeon performing delicate surgery. Jennifer woke at 8, showered longer than usual, and then the pattern from the previous week repeated itself like a nightmare on replay. She put on a new dress, dark green this time, cinched at the waist, clearly expensive. She did her makeup with careful precision, styled her hair like she was preparing for a photo shoot. At 10 a.m., she was checking the windows, tidying the living room that was already clean, pouring wine into 2 glasses with the confidence of someone who knew exactly when her guest would arrive. 10:30 a.m. motion alert on my phone. The same car, the same man. Walking up my driveway with the same confident stride, like he owned the place, like he belonged there more than I did. Jennifer opened the door before he could knock, pulled him inside, kissed him immediately with a passion that made my stomach clench like a fist. I watched for exactly 15 minutes, long enough to see them move to the couch, long enough to see his hands slide under her dress, long enough to see them stand, kissing, moving toward the stairs, toward the guest bedroom, toward those white sheets. Then I closed the laptop, grabbed my car keys, and drove home. My hands were steady on the wheel. After 6 years of corporate meetings and controlling my reactions under pressure, I knew how to maintain professional composure. But this wasn't anger. This was beyond anger. This was ice-cold purpose. I parked 2 houses down and walked calmly to my own front door. My house looked peaceful from the outside. Manicured lawn, closed curtains, the picture of suburban tranquility. I unlocked the front door silently and stepped inside. Sounds from upstairs. Exactly what I'd expected. Exactly what ignited something dark and primitive in my chest. I climbed the stairs toward the guest bedroom, where 2 people were about to discover that privacy is an illusion when someone owns the house you're betraying them in. I didn't hesitate. I didn't knock. I didn't announce myself or give them a chance to compose themselves or fabricate explanations. I kicked the door open, the lock splintered with a crack like breaking bones, the door slamming against the wall hard enough to leave a dent in the drywall. Jennifer and the stranger were exactly where I knew they'd be, caught in the most vulnerable, damning position possible. The man's head snapped toward the door, his face cycling through confusion, recognition, and terror in the span of a single heartbeat. His mouth opened to speak, but I didn't let him find words. "What the—" I crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed him by the shoulder, skin hot and slick with sweat, and yanked him away from my wife. My fist connected with his face before either of them could react, the impact reverberating up my arm like electricity. Knuckles meeting bone with a sickening crunch that I felt in my soul. Blood erupted from his nose in a crimson spray that splattered across those white sheets. Jennifer screamed. The sound was piercing, primal, but it was white noise to me now. The stranger went down hard, naked and scrambling, trying to protect himself with raised arms. I followed him to the floor, 6 years of disciplined gym sessions and controlled aggression finally finding their purpose. Another punch to the jaw, another to the ribs. This man had walked into my home, slept in my guest bed, touched my wife, drank my wine, and thought he could just walk away. Every workout, every frustration, every moment of swallowed anger in corporate meetings, all of it channeled into these moments of pure, righteous violence. "Michael, stop!" Jennifer sobbed, trying to pull me back, her hands grabbing at my shirt. The sheet she'd wrapped around herself was slipping, but modesty seemed less important than damage control. "Please, this isn't what it looks like," she pleaded desperately. I rounded on her, and she actually stepped back from the fury in my eyes. "It's exactly what it looks like," I roared. The words came out with such force that the room felt too small, too confined. The stranger was gasping on the floor, blood streaming from his nose and split lip, making sounds like a wounded animal. I delivered one final kick to his ribs, not hard enough for permanent damage, but hard enough to make a point that would last weeks. Then I grabbed him by the ankle and dragged him. He was too dazed to resist effectively, leaving a trail of blood drops on the beige carpet as I hauled him down the stairs. He was making sounds, gasping protests, whimpered pleas, but my ears were ringing too loud with righteous fury to process words. I opened the front door to the bright Thursday afternoon and literally threw him onto the lawn. He landed in a sprawled, naked heap, visible to any neighbor who might be watching from their windows. Mrs. Thomas from next door was probably getting quite a show. "If I ever see you near my house again," I told him, my voice deadly calm now, the rage crystallizing into something harder and more permanent, "I'll finish what I started." I slammed the door and turned to find Jennifer on the stairs, a sheet wrapped hastily around her body, mascara streaking her face like war paint. She looked smaller somehow, diminished, like someone had let the air out of her. "Michael, please let me explain," she began. "Get out," I stated flatly. "What?" she asked, confusion mixing with panic. "Get dressed and get out of my house," I repeated. Jennifer's voice climbed to a desperate pitch. "Michael, this was the first time. I swear we only just—" she protested. I pulled out my phone, opened the video file from the previous Thursday, and turned the screen toward her. She watched herself open the door to the stranger, watched herself kiss him, watched them move toward the guest bedroom together. The timestamp was clear. 1 week ago. Her face drained of color like someone had opened a valve. "You've been recording," she whispered, horrified. "For a week," I replied flatly, my voice empty of everything but ice. "I have everything. Every time he came over, every lie you told me, every time you changed those sheets and pretended to be faithful." I pocketed the phone. "Get your things and leave. Now." "I made a mistake," Jennifer pleaded, reaching toward me. I stepped back like she was contagious. "Multiple mistakes. Multiple times. Premeditated, calculated, ongoing betrayal," I corrected her. I looked at my watch with theatrical precision. "You have 20 minutes to pack essentials and leave. If you're not out, I'm calling the police and showing them this footage as evidence of trespassing and adultery." Jennifer crumbled, sobbing, but she moved, stumbled up the stairs, gathered clothes with shaking hands. I followed at a distance, watching coldly as she threw random items into a suitcase, panicked selections that spoke to her complete lack of preparation for consequences. "Where will I go?" she asked, voice broken. "Your parents, your sister, your affair partner. Oh, wait, he just fled bleeding and naked from my lawn. Maybe not him," I answered coldly. "Michael, please." She tried once more. 19 minutes, I interrupted. She left with one suitcase and a face full of tears, still trying to form explanations that died on her lips when she met my empty gaze. I locked the door behind her and stood in the silent house. My knuckles were bruised and bleeding. There was blood on my shirt, not mine. The guest bedroom door hung crooked on broken hinges. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey, and called my attorney. "File everything," I said. "Today." The house was silent except for my breathing. I drank the whiskey in one swallow, feeling nothing. I won. But why did victory taste like ash? The legal destruction of Jennifer's life took exactly 3 months. My evidence was overwhelming. High-definition video footage, timestamps, documented patterns of behavior that no attorney could explain away or minimize. Jennifer's lawyer tried to negotiate, arguing for spousal support, equitable division of assets, claiming emotional distress and temporary insanity. My attorney played 30 seconds of the footage in court. The judge's face said everything. Jennifer received the legal minimum, enough to survive temporarily, nothing more. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, my dignity, and my faith that actions have consequences. The social fallout was worse than the legal battle. and I orchestrated every devastating moment. I sent copies of the evidence to Jennifer's parents with a detailed timeline and explanation. I didn't do it out of cruelty. I did it because they deserved to know why their daughter was suddenly homeless and calling them in tears. Her father's response, when Jennifer showed up at their door with her single suitcase and sob story, was devastatingly final. "You destroyed your marriage. You humiliated yourself and this family. Find somewhere else to stay." Her mother wouldn't even look at her. 3 months after the confrontation, Jennifer was working as a server at an Applebee's, living in a studio apartment in the worst part of town. Her carefully curated circle of suburban friends had distanced themselves. Some quietly stopped returning texts, others explicitly told her they couldn't support what she'd done. The affair partner had disappeared entirely. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that he'd moved to another state, citing family issues. Some darker rumors suggested the injuries I'd inflicted had lasting complications, but I didn't investigate. I didn't care. I sold the house 4 months post-divorce. Too many corrupted memories embedded in the walls, in the guest bedroom, in every corner where I'd lived a lie. I bought a modern downtown condo, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, closer to work. I started therapy, working through not just the betrayal, but my own capacity for violence. The therapist helped me understand that rage was natural, that my actions were understandable even if legally questionable. I processed it all with the same methodical approach I'd used to gather evidence, step by step, session by session, building something healthier from the wreckage. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Jennifer reached out through a mutual friend. She wanted to apologize properly, face to face, to get closure for herself. My response was immediate and final. "Tell her I hope she finds what she's looking for, but it won't be with me." I have nothing to say to her. I didn't hate her anymore. I felt nothing when I thought about her, and somehow that complete indifference was worse than hate would have been. 1 year after the confrontation, I've moved on completely. I threw myself into work and earned a promotion to senior director. My focus and drive became legendary in the office. I'm dating again, seriously this time. Her name is Rachel. She's a financial analyst, and when she asked about my previous marriage, I told her the truth without bitterness, just facts. She cheated. I found out. We divorced. I've done therapy. I'm good now. Rachel appreciated the honesty. The guest bedroom in my old house has been renovated by the new owners, some young couple planning to use it as a nursery. They have no idea what happened there, and I like it that way. Just another room in another suburban house, emptied of its history. For me, that room was both an ending and a beginning, the place where my old life died and my real life began. The life where I know my own worth and refuse to accept less than complete honesty. I don't regret the violence. I don't regret the systematic destruction of her social life. I regret only that I didn't see the signs sooner, that I wasted 6 years on someone who never valued what we had. But I learned, and I'm free. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.